Hey everybody, welcome back to Anatomy. This is the next part of your notes, part 4. And here's your essential question to get this started off. What are the parts of the homeostatic mechanism? We'll be learning that as we go through these notes today. Get your notebook out. Remember, this goes on the input side, which is the right-hand side of your notes. And if you end up writing more than what your notebook can hold, add another sheet to the bottom and either glue it, tape it, staple it, whatever you got to do, fold it up in there so you can keep it all together. All right, so here we go. Oops, let me go back. The Introduction to the Human Body, Part 4. All right, so here we go. We have components of a feedback loop. All right. Each feedback loop has the same components, but there are different types of feedback loops that we're going to be learning about today. The first thing we have here is there's a receptor. Usually this is some kind of something from the nervous system. It monitors a controlled condition. All right, so the receptor is also called a sensor. All right, there's a stimulus, and then there's a receptor that senses or monitors a controlled condition. Then we have a control center. It determines the next action to take place. That's that control center. And there's the effector. The effector receives the directions from the control center and produces a response that changes the controlled condition. The example we have over here is body temperature. You know our bodies maintain a constant temperature through homeostasis. Our body really likes to stay at about 37 degrees Celsius or 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. All right, so let's see what happens here. The stimulus is that the body temperature exceeds 37 degrees Celsius, which means there's a fever. It's too hot. Okay, nerve cells in the skin and in the brain sense this. Okay, then there's a message that goes to the temperature regulatory center of the brain. Then sweat glands throughout the body begin to be activated. And as that happens, the body sweats, heat's removed, and hopefully body temperature drops. That's why sometimes when you get a fever, you get really super sweaty. Okay? Your body's automatically trying to bring your temperature down. All right, next up. Here we go. We have negative feedback loop and a positive feedback loop. Let's spend some time looking at the negative first. This is actually the negative feedback loop. It's not like a negative attitude or a negative action. What it is it's a feedback loop in which the original stimulus is reversed. So kind of like what we just talked about with body temperature. If the body temperature is too hot, then it goes through this feedback loop system to make it colder, okay, to make it not so hot. All right, so most feedback systems in the body are negative feedback loop systems, and they're used for conditions that need frequent adjustment. So examples of this are body temperature, blood sugar levels, blood pressure as well, okay? So here is this example down here at the bottom again for body temperature. The stimulus would be your body temperature, if it goes up or if it goes down, and it's sensed by the nervous system. And then your brain, the part of the brain that works this is your hypothalamus, and it causes your blood temperature to lower or get higher depending upon what's going on. We saw on the previous slide that your sweat glands would be stimulated to release sweat, but what about in the opposite direction? What happens is your body will begin to shiver, okay, and that's the warming mechanism. All of your muscles in your back and your arms and legs and stuff like that begin to twitch really, really fast. That's shivering, and that'll cause the friction to heat up your body from the inside out. And that should heat up your body. Okay, so the next type is the positive feedback loop. In this, the original stimulus is intensified. Now, I think this is the only positive feedback loop that does occur, and that would be normal childbirth in females. Okay, so how this happens is you see that there is the stretch of the uterus is activated, signals to the brain for oxytocin to be released, and this causes the muscles to contract, which again causes more stretch. Okay. Okay, so looking at blood pressure, this is a really bad image. It didn't look that bad earlier. Anyway, okay, so we have pressure receptors in the arterial walls that detect an increase in blood pressure. Okay, the force of the blood on the walls, which is what blood pressure is. The brain then receives the input and signals the heart and the blood vessels. Now, your heart rate slows down. Your arterioles, which are the blood vessels that are slightly smaller than your arteries going into the capillaries, before the capillaries, they dilate to increase diameter. Then your blood pressure returns to normal. Now, whenever these blood vessels dilate, they get bigger, so it reduces the amount of pressure and it returns back to normal. Okay, and that's all kind of illustrated here, but that's really hard to see. Okay, during childbirth, like I mentioned earlier, the stretch receptors in the walls of the uterus send signals to the brain. Your brain releases a hormone, oxytocin, into the bloodstream. The smooth muscle in the uterus contracts more forcefully, causing more stretch, more hormone release, more contractions, and it just intensifies and intensifies until that baby is born. Okay, once the uterus stops stretching, then the whole cycle just stops and there's no more contractions. Okay, and you can see there's another image of it again. Homeostatic imbalances. Now, this is whenever homeostasis is just totally off kilter, all right? When there's like a total shift in one direction or another. This could be caused by a disorder, which is an abnormality of function. Could be caused by disease, which is an imbalance with distinct symptoms or changes in body function, which are felt by the patient, such as nausea. Signs, which are changes in body function observed by a doctor, such as a rash or a fever, or maybe some other things that are happening. Diagnosis would be the skill of distinguishing one disease from another. That's what a doctor or a physician's assistant might do, or a nurse practitioner. They would give you a diagnosis as to what your problem was based upon your symptoms and signs. Epidemiology is like tracing back as to how a disease is transmitted from one person to another. And then pharmacology is the study of how drugs are used to treat disease. All right, and that's why we have all these prescriptions down here. All right, well, this concludes our notes for this time. Go back, answer that essential question about homeostatic mechanism, the different steps to the homeostatic mechanism, and get ready to do our next activity. Okay, see you in class. Bye-bye.